Further introductions. It is now time for oral questions. The member from Thornhill.
Thank you very much, Speaker. And my questions today will all be to the Premier and all about spending and accountability. For example, back in June, I attended an event at the new Vaughan City Hall, and the Mayor of Vaughan and the member for Vaughan were there, the Minister of Health. She still is the Minister of Health, I think. They were all there. Anyway, Premier, they were all there to re-announce, and that's right, I said re-announce, a new hospital for Vaughan. That was then, before the October election, and this is now the time to deliver. Premier, please tell the people of Southern York Region if you'll be keeping your commitment. Is the Vaughan Hospital a yes or a no?
Premier.
Speaker, I welcome the question. I say to my honourable colleague, I know that he has, and understandably so, a tremendous amount of impatience for the budget to be introduced shortly in this very chamber. We look forward to doing that, Speaker. I can tell you that we have worked hard to reconcile competing principles, and I think we've landed at a very good place, Speaker, a place that gives expression to the choices that Ontarians would have us make, that would have us express their values. So we're going to do what we need to do to protect our schools. I say to my honourable colleague, to protect our health care, including our hospital, Speaker. We will do more as well to lay a strong foundation for jobs and growth, Speaker. I think it'll be exactly what the doctor ordered in terms of our economy and fiscal challenge.
Thank you. Supplementary.
Again to the Premier about his pattern of spending and unkept promises. Premier, it's just after 10:35 on March 27th. Could you please tell us, at this particular moment, your government is funding or not funding transit in Toronto? I ask this because 6 of your Scarborough members don't seem to be able to decide which side of that question they're on. One week they're voting against subways, and the next ministers Dogood and Best are trying to backpedal to save their political hides. So I again have to ask, will you or will you not build subways for the residents of this city, especially those in Scarborough?
Premier.
I'm not sure whether my honourable colleague's leader is aware of this line of questioning, but this particular gentleman keeps asking me to spend more money, Speaker. His leader asked us to spend less money. Speaker, we remain absolutely committed to investing in more transit in the City of Toronto, Speaker. We're proud to be building, as we speak, a line between the airport and downtown Toronto. We're proud to be building a subway out to York University, Speaker, and we look forward to coming to a final conclusion with our partners at the City of Toronto in terms of where we're going to proceed there. Recently, we received some real clarity with respect to their choice. As a council, our responsibility is to respect that choice, Speaker. We will do that, and we look forward to investing in still more public transit right here in the great City of Toronto.
Thank you. No supplementary.
And back to the Premier about his inexplicable view of Ontario finances. Only for this government could being in the red be business as usual and $1.1 billion in annual revenue from racetrack slots be part of a subsidy. Had you put that revenue that you've netted from those slots, Premier, in your piggy bank every year and applied it to the deficit this year, that deficit could have been a modest $6 or $7 billion, but alas, you did not. Instead, you're going to turf that annual $1.1 billion. You're going to do something else, but you haven't said what. Since your spending plan hasn't stopped, how do you plan to finance your expensive habits? How will you replace the $1.1 billion in annual revenue that you've decided to throw away?
Premier.
So, Speaker, if I can understand the pattern that has evolved in this line of questioning, it's a kind of a new amalgam of criticism of spending, but insisting within every question itself that we spend more. Yeah. So you can understand why
from Prince Edward Hastings, come to order.
Adopted by the folks on the other side. Speaker, again, we will do what Ontarians want us to do. They want us to protect the gains that we've made together in our schools and in our health care. They want us to continue to find ways to build a stronger economy that is characterized by strong growth and new jobs, Speaker. They want us to do that in a way that is mindful of our responsibilities to our most vulnerable, and that's exactly what our budget will do.
Thank you. New question, the member from Thornhill.
Thank you, Speaker, and back to the Premier. I'm just trying to understand, Premier. You've blamed just about every imaginable thing for Ontario's financial disaster. But I bet you've never once looked in the mirror, conveniently forgetting the fact that all of Canada has been subjected to the same conditions, yet it's Ontario on your watch that is suffering. We had an election less than 6 months ago. You obviously knew almost to the penny what this year would hold for Ontario. So since you knew these things about Ontario's precarious financial position before, during and after the election, yet made spending promises that people believed in and voted for, the only conclusion one could reasonably reach is that you made promises you knew you couldn't keep. Unparliamentary word for that, Premier. Based on your track record, how do you expect Ontarians to ever again believe that your pre-election promises could possibly result in delivery on your commitments?
Thank you, Premier.
Speaker, my honourable colleague is inclined to conveniently forget that he ran on our fiscal plan, Speaker. He ran on our plan. The significance between us and them during the course of the election, Speaker, was that our platform was much more modest, both in terms of the number of commitments and the financial impact of our platform, Speaker. And we have found a way, in fact, to deliver on our plan, Speaker. We moved ahead with our 30% off tuition grant, which I'm sure my honourable colleague is going to want to support, Speaker. Our healthy home renovation tax credit, Speaker, we found a way to move forward with that as well. So, Speaker, we have found ways, in fact, to deliver on our commitments. But again, it would remind my honourable colleague that he, in fact, ran on our fiscal plan.
Supplementary.
You know, Speaker, I think what we have here is a failure to communicate. We have a premier and we have a government that seem to govern by weather vane. If the wind is calm but there's a southern breeze and the wagons get circled and an abjectly incompetent minister is protected. An economic development minister not fit to run a candy store can jump from surfaced LRT to buried subway overnight, joined in lockstep by a minister of consumer services who no one's ever heard from. Hospitals can be announced, re-announced, never built. Premier, tell this House, when we go into the budget lockup this morning, will we be pleasantly surprised and see you follow through on your election promises, or will we find a budget that looks like it was written by the former board of directors of Orange?
Speaker, in all seriousness, I'm just not sure how that constitutes any kind of a positive, constructive contribution at the time of a very important debate about where our province goes next. So it's an interesting litany, Speaker, but it's more than anything else, it's a distraction. We'll stay focused on our responsibilities, Speaker. What are Ontarians telling us today? I think they're telling us very clearly, you got to get the job done. There's a significant challenge before us. Make sure that you rise to the occasion. Make sure we do hear what they're doing in their homes. They're making extraordinary efforts to pay down their debts and to protect those things that are most important to them and their families. We'll do the same thing here, Speaker. We will protect their health care, we'll protect their schools, we'll protect their economy, and we'll make sure we eliminate the deficit as part of a 5-year plan.
Supplementary.
Well, you haven't done much of a job so far. I'll take that as your gentlemanly way, Premier, of telling me where to go. I'm an Ontarian. I'm an Ontarian, one of 13 million comprising the population of Canada's biggest, most beautiful province. And I, like my constituents, demand accountability and responsibility from the Premier and this government. Please stand in your place, Premier, and tell us this. Why should any Ontarian have confidence in your budget or your explanations of where we've been, how we got here, and where you expect to take us when your finance minister shares with us his 5th attempt at a workable budget this afternoon? And while you're at it, why should any Ontarian accept a word he or you have to say and believe that you can actually lead us to a better day?
Trust. Speaker. I appreciate the question, and I say to my honourable colleague and to Ontarians in general, take a look at our record. We inherited a $5.6 billion deficit, Speaker. We, in fact, changed the law.
Order. 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 Thank you. Premier.
Speaker, I'll say it again. Speaker, on 3 separate occasions now, we have placed our record before the Ontario electorate. We asked them to carefully consider our record. My friends opposite are unhappy that Ontarians arrived at a different conclusion than the one that they arrive at as a result of their partisan perspective. We inherited a $5.6 billion deficit, Speaker. We worked hard to clean that up, Speaker. We then balanced our budget 3 times in a row. We were hit hard by a recession. Since then, Speaker, on every occasion, we have come in under our projections when it comes to deficits. That's a substantive record on which we will continue to build.
Thank you. Question, the member from Essex.